Hello and welcome to Bedtime Science Stories, a sanctuary for curious minds. The world beyond can often feel like a relentless whirlwind of noise and haste, but here, we invite you to let all that fade into a gentle hum. This is a haven where the rhythm of the heart slows to match the pace of wonder. A quiet corner of the universe where you can either drift peacefully into dreams, or absorb a fascinating fact or two in a state of perfect relaxation. Tonight, we are not mere spectators gazing at pictures of forests, caves, and oceans. We are becoming explorers of the intimate and the immense. We will step through an invisible veil into these worlds to uncover nature's most guarded and magical secrets. We will pull back the curtain on wonders that remain hidden from most. A flower that pours its entire existence into a single, glorious bloom. Stones that embark on slow, solitary journeys across desert floors. Storms that have churned for centuries in the atmosphere of a distant giant. And trees whose rings contain the living history of humankind. Our voyage will be a gentle one, unfolding fact by precious fact. We will traverse deserts that defy their arid nature in a sudden, breathtaking explosion of color. Dive into the mysterious realm of rivers that flow silently beneath the salt-laden sea, and discover the quiet, impossible, and often beautiful strategies life has devised to not just survive, but flourish. In every conceivable corner of our planet, some of the truths you encounter tonight may startle you with their strangeness. Others may linger in your mind long after, settling into your memory like the persistent, clean scent of petrichor after a summer storm. And before we embark, if these calm and curious journeys provide you with a moment of peace, a way to untangle the knots of the day and end it on a note of wonder, we would be deeply grateful if you considered liking and subscribing, or simply sharing your own thoughts in the comments below. Your participation helps this quiet community grow, guiding other weary and wandering souls to this refuge, one sleepy heart at a time. Now, if you are settled and ready, let us begin our exploration. Consider the ground beneath your feet. A single, humble teaspoon of healthy soil is not merely dirt, it is a teeming, bustling metropolis on a microscopic scale, containing a greater diversity of life than all the human beings currently walking the earth. This is a world you rarely see, but it is the foundation upon which our own world is built. Within that one teaspoon, billions upon billions of microscopic organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa coexist with countless tiny creatures like nematodes and mites. This vast, living network is the unseen engine of our planet. It breaks down fallen leaves, recycles essential nutrients, and even engages in a silent, chemical dialogue with plant roots, sharing information and resources in a symbiotic dance. Many of these organisms are so infinitesimally small that they defy clear imagination. Yet collectively, they form the very bedrock of every terrestrial ecosystem. Without their ceaseless, vital work, plants would struggle to find nourishment, and the entire, intricate chain of life that thrives above the soil would inevitably falter and collapse. Scientists, even now, are continually discovering entirely new species in routine soil samples, strange, ancient life forms that have never been named, classified, or studied. It is a profoundly humbling thought to consider that under the sole of your shoe lies a vibrant, complex city of life so vast and populous that it dwarfs our entire human civilization, all working in quiet unison to keep our living world turning. While we often think of the plant kingdom as one of slow, deliberate growth, there are dramatic exceptions. Certain plants have evolved the ability to move with a speed that can snatch life from the air. Most plants move too slowly for our human perception, growing and bending over days or even weeks. But a few remarkable species have perfected the art of rapid motion, fast enough to ensnare an unsuspecting insect. The Venus flytrap, for instance, is a marvel of botanical engineering. It can snap its specialized, leaves shut in less than a second. Triggered when tiny, sensitive hairs inside its trap are brushed twice in quick succession. Sundews, with their dewy, glistening tentacles, curl their sticky leaves inward round their prey, while the aquatic water wheel plant spins its underwater traps with surprising agility. These astonishing movements are made possible by rapid changes in water pressure within the plant's cells, a mechanism triggered by the simple sensation of touch. For the insect, it is a story that ends in an instant. One moment it is exploring a potential source of nectar. The next, it is caught in a living cage. These carnivorous plants typically inhabit nutrient-poor soils, and the act of capturing and digesting animal prey provides them with the precious nitrogen and other minerals they need to survive. To watch one in action is a strangely unsettling experience. It feels as if you are witnessing a decision being made, blurring the line between the plant and animal kingdoms. In the quiet, resilient corners of our world, there are trees that are living chronicles of time itself, so ancient that entire human civilizations have risen, flourished, and turned to dust within their long, patient lifetimes. The bristlecone pines of the American West stand as some of the most venerable living organisms on Earth. With some individuals exceeding 4,000 years of age, they grow with a profound slowness, their forms twisted into beautiful, sculptural shapes by relentless wind and driving snow. Their bark is weathered and gnarled, a testament to countless seasons, and yet, it is still vibrantly alive, deep within its core. A tree holds a living record of every year that has passed, a diary written in rings, documenting wet years and dry years, fierce storms and gentle seasons. These ancient beings have survived not through dominance, but through a profound adaptability, allowing parts of themselves to die back during harsh years, conserving their energy to grow again when conditions improve. When you stand in the presence of one, you are in the company of a life that began before the pyramids of Egypt were even conceived, and it continues, steadfastly and quietly, to produce new leaves, one spring after another. In the damp, shadowy undergrowth of tropical forests, a strange and sinister drama plays out, revealing a world where behavior is not always one's own. The Opiocordyceps fungus, for example, specializes in infecting ants. Its spores take root on an ant's exoskeleton, eventually spreading through its body like a puppet master taking hold of the strings. Once firmly established, the fungus releases a cocktail of chemicals that hijack the ant's central nervous system, compelling it to abandon the safety of its colony and climb the stem of a plant to a high, exposed leaf. Here, in this perfect, elevated position for spore dispersal, the fungus completes its grim work, consuming the ant from within and killing it. Finally, a long, slender stalk erupts from the dead ant's body, releasing a new generation of spores into the air to rain down on the unsuspecting colony below. This is not a random act of nature. The height and position are meticulously calculated for maximum effect. To our human sensibilities, it seems like a plot from a science fiction tale, a parasite commandeering its host's body and mind, turning it into a vehicle for its own reproduction. Yet, it is a natural, if chillingly precise, part of the rainforest's complex and interconnected web of life. There are places on Earth where the sky itself seems to turn inside out, gifting the land with living rain. In a small town in Honduras named Juro, residents have a name for a rare but remarkable meteorological event, Lluvia de Peces, the rain of fish. Several times a year, typically in the wake of intense, powerful thunderstorms, the townspeople emerge to find small, silver fish flopping on the streets and in their fields. Scientists hypothesize that the most likely explanation involves powerful tornadoes or waterspouts over nearby bodies of water, which act like atmospheric vacuum cleaners, lifting fish and water high into the air and carrying them inland, before depositing them with the falling rain. Some locals cherish it as a divine blessing, a miracle, while others accept it as a fascinating natural oddity. Similar reports of animal rain have emerged from other parts of the world, involving not just fish, but also frogs, crabs, and even small jellyfish. To witness such an event must feel profoundly surreal, to hear the familiar patter of rainfall, only to look down and see the ground glittering with the frantic, living movement of creatures that have tumbled from the heavens. In the frigid, unforgiving landscapes of the far north, some creatures have mastered the ultimate survival trick, pausing their very lives. The wood frog of Alaska embodies this incredible ability, allowing up to 2/3 of its body water to turn to solid ice during the long, harsh winter. In this state, its heart stops beating completely, its blood ceases to flow, and it enters a state of suspended animation that is, for all appearances, indistinguishable from death. And yet, it is not dead. Special compounds in its body, primarily glucose and urea, flood its cells, acting as a natural antifreeze that prevents the formation of destructive ice crystals. When the warmth of spring finally returns and the ice within it thaws, the frog's heart begins to beat again, and it simply hops away, resuming its life as if waking from a long nap. Certain insects, fish, and the nearly indestructible tardigrade use similar strategies of cryptobiosis. It is a survival method that defies our basic understanding of biology, yet nature has refined it over millions of years, allowing life to persist and even thrive in places where winter is not merely a season, but a months-long, deep freeze. Our planet is a world of constant, invisible electrical storms. Lightning strikes the Earth with staggering frequency. Scientists estimate roughly 8 million times each day, which translates to more than 90 brilliant flashes every single second. These awesome bolts of energy form when powerful electrical charges separate and build up within storm clouds or between a cloud and the ground. The air surrounding a lightning channel is instantly heated to an astonishing 30,000 C, a temperature that is, for a moment, hotter than the surface of the sun. This instantaneous superheating of air causes it to expand explosively, creating the shockwave we hear as thunder. But lightning is more than just a spectacular light show. It plays a crucial role in our planet's chemistry. The immense energy of a strike helps break apart stable nitrogen molecules in the air, allowing them to combine with oxygen and other elements to form nitrogen oxides, which eventually fall to Earth in rain, providing essential nutrients for plants. In the tropical regions, where thunderstorms are a near daily occurrence, the night horizon often flickers with the silent, distant flashes of these immense storms, a constant reminder that our atmosphere is a dynamic, living entity, crackling with raw, elemental power. The boundary between water and land is not always as absolute as it seems. In tidal zones and swampy mangroves, certain fish have evolved to defy this division. The mudskipper, found in parts of Asia and Africa, is a quintessential example. It uses its remarkably strong, muscular pectoral fins to walk or even skip across mudflats at low tide, searching for food and evading aquatic predators. It can breathe through its skin and the specialized lining of its mouth and throat. As long as these surfaces remain moist, every movement creates a constellation of tiny, swirling sparks, turning the black water into a liquid canvas of swirling starlight. The effect is caused by a chemical reaction within the organism, similar to how a firefly glows on land. Calm, shallow, warm waters with a specific salinity create the perfect nursery for these dinoflagellates to bloom in such vast numbers. To witness it is a breathtaking experience. Dipping your hand into the water and lifting it out, watching the shimmering, glowing droplets fall back into the sea, feels like interacting with something truly otherworldly, as if the ocean itself is trying to capture and remember your touch. Our mountains may seem like the most permanent and unchanging features of our planet, but many of them are still actively growing, rising toward the sky millimeter by millimeter each year. This dramatic, if slow, process is driven by the immense tectonic forces deep within the Earth. In places where continental plates are colliding, the crust is crumpled and forced upward, creating massive mountain ranges that continue to be pushed higher. The Himalayas, home to Mount Everest, are the prime example, still rising as the Indian tectonic plate continues its relentless push into the Eurasian plate, even as wind, water, and ice erode the peaks, wearing them down. The upward force of the collision often outpaces the rate of erosion. In geological terms, this is a rapid and dramatic process, though it is far too slow for us to perceive in a human lifetime. Scientists can measure this growth with precise satellite and GPS data, watching the peaks of the world literally inch higher over the decades. It is a powerful reminder that the landscapes we think of as ancient and fixed are, in fact, dynamic and still in motion, continually being shaped and reshaped by the same powerful planetary forces that first created them. Oxygen is the breath of life for almost the entire animal kingdom, but a few remarkable creatures have evolved to do without it for astonishingly long periods. The painted turtle, for example, can hibernate at the bottom of a frozen lake for more than 4 months, surviving in water that is effectively devoid of oxygen. It achieves this by slowing its metabolism to an almost undetectable rate, and switching to anaerobic forms of energy production that do not require oxygen, a process that would be fatal for most vertebrates. Some worms and tiny crustaceans that live in the oxygen-poor sediments of deep lakes and oceans have adapted to extract energy in ways that entirely bypass oxygen. Even more astonishingly, scientists have recently discovered a tiny, parasitic animal called Henneguia summinicola, a relative of jellyfish and corals, that has no mitochondrial DNA at all. This means it has lost the ability to perform aerobic respiration and never uses oxygen at all. For these animals, oxygen isn't just optional, it is irrelevant. Such radical adaptations allow life to flourish in environments where most other creatures would perish in minutes, demonstrating that the strategies for survival can take forms far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. From our perspective on the ground, a rainbow always appears as a majestic arc of color, its ends seemingly vanishing into the landscape. This is because the lower half of the circle is blocked from our view by the horizon. But from a higher vantage point such as an airplane, a high mountain peak, or a tall skyscraper, this obstruction disappears, and the rainbow can reveal its true form, a perfect, complete circle of light. This happens because a rainbow is, in fact, a cone of light, with the observer's eye at the apex. Every raindrop within that cone is refracting and reflecting sunlight back to you, creating the colored ring. On the ground, we only see the part of the cone above the horizon. Pilots often witness these circular rainbows, and sometimes they can see the shadow of their aircraft at the very center of the ring, a related phenomenon known as a glory. It is a beautiful and literal reminder that the beauty we normally see is often just a fragment of a much larger, more perfect whole, and that a simple shift in perspective can reveal a world that has been there all along, just waiting to be seen. When we hear the word desert, our minds typically conjure images of vast, scorching seas of sand. But a desert is scientifically defined by its dryness, its extremely low levels of precipitation, not its temperature. By this definition, the largest deserts on Earth are the frozen landscapes of Antarctica and the Arctic. Antarctica holds the title of the coldest, driest, and windiest continent, with temperatures that can plunge below -70°C. Its interior receives so little precipitation that it is technically a polar desert. Yet, even here, life persists in astonishing ways. Microbial life exists in pockets of liquid water deep beneath the ice, and hardy organisms like lichens and mosses cling to life on exposed, wine-scoured rocks. These polar deserts are every bit as extreme as their hot, sandy counterparts, but their beauty is one of stark, minimalist contrasts: the blinding whiteness of snow under the endless summer sun, the eerie, ethereal blue glow of light within an ice cave, and a frozen, profound stillness that can remain unbroken for centuries. It is an important reminder that desert does not always mean sand and heat. Sometimes it means a world of ice and absolute silence. In certain specific and dramatic conditions, the fundamental law that water flows downhill can appear to be momentarily broken. On tall, coastal cliffs where powerful, upwardly funneled winds can slam into a waterfall, the falling water can be caught and pushed back skyward. This creates the surreal and mesmerizing spectacle of a waterfall that seems to be flowing upward, defying gravity. In reality, the water is not flowing backwards to its source. The main flow is still descending, but the wind is so strong that it shreds the falling water into a fine mist at the cliff's edge and blows it vertically into the air, creating the illusion of reversal. The effect is fleeting, lasting only as long as the powerful gusts persist. But for that brief moment, a familiar landscape can feel utterly transformed, as if the very rules of nature have been temporarily suspended, offering a glimpse into a world where anything is possible. Seeds are nature's ultimate time capsules, engineered with tough, protective shells to preserve the spark of life through long periods of dormancy. Some seeds can lie dormant in the soil for centuries, waiting for the precise combination of warmth, moisture, and light to signal that the time is right to sprout. In one of the most remarkable cases of this longevity, scientists successfully germinated a 2,000-year-old date palm seed, recovered from the ancient fortress of Masada in Israel. Certain Arctic plants produce seeds that can last even longer, preserved in the frozen, timeless conditions of the permafrost. Inside the seed, the embryonic plant remains in a state of suspended animation, its metabolic activity nearly zero, its stored nutrients perfectly preserved. When the right conditions finally arrive, the seed absorbs water, its metabolism reignites, and it begins to grow, bridging a vast, unimaginable stretch of time in a single, triumphant act of renewal. It is as if the plant has been holding its breath for centuries, waiting patiently for its moment to return to the world. Reproduction typically requires the genetic contribution of two parents, but some animals have mastered the art of creating perfect copies of themselves. This process, known as asexual reproduction or cloning, is common in simpler organisms but also occurs in more complex animals. Many starfish can regenerate lost arms, and in several species, a single severed arm can regenerate an entirely new, complete starfish, provided a portion of the central disc is attached. Certain freshwater hydras simply bud off miniature, genetically identical versions of themselves. Some insects, like aphids, can reproduce through parthenogenesis, laying eggs that develop into clones without any fertilization. In stable, favorable environments, cloning is a remarkably efficient way to rapidly populate a habitat without the need to find a mate. The trade-off is a lack of genetic diversity, which can make the entire population vulnerable to a single disease or environmental change. But under the right circumstances, it is a strategy that ensures survival with elegant simplicity. Many plants possess a sophisticated internal timekeeping mechanism, a circadian rhythm that helps them anticipate the daily cycle of day and night. Some plants use this internal clock for an even more precise feat, measuring the relative length of day and night. This ability, known as photoperiodism, tells them when to initiate flowering, when to begin dormancy, or when to shed their leaves. For example, chrysanthemums and poinsettias are short day plants they only initiate flowering when the nights become longer than a critical threshold, ensuring they bloom in the fall or winter. Long day plants, like spinach and lettuce, flower when the days are long, timing their reproduction for the summer. This timing can be so genetically ingrained that plants grown in controlled, artificial light cycles will still open and close their flowers or change their growth patterns at the correct times, even without direct cues from the rising and setting sun. It is a form of subtle, innate intelligence that allows the stationary plant to perfectly synchronize its life with the turning of the seasons. A single, large cumulonimbus thundercloud is a titan of the atmosphere, and its mass is almost unimaginably vast. A mature thundercloud can hold millions of tons of water in the form of tiny suspended droplets and ice crystals. This mass can far exceed the weight of an entire mountain range. The reason this immense weight doesn't simply crash to the ground at once is that the water is distributed across a colossal volume and is constantly being supported by powerful updrafts of rising air within the cloud. When these updrafts can no longer support the weight, or when atmospheric conditions change, the water begins to coalesce and fall as rain, hail, or snow. These majestic clouds can stretch for dozens of kilometers across and tower over 15 kilometers high. Their bright, brilliant white tops glowing in the sunlight while their dark, flat bases churn with shadow and energy. To see one of these giants on the horizon is to witness a floating iceberg of the sky. It is difficult to reconcile something so seemingly airy and ethereal with a weight that is, quite literally, heavier than mountains. In the most extreme environments on Earth, life has found a way to not just survive, but to thrive. Around deep-sea hydrothermal vents, where superheated water rich in minerals spews from the ocean floor, temperatures can regularly exceed 4°C. Yet, entire ecosystems are built around microorganisms called hyperthermophiles that flourish in this scalding water. They have evolved specialized proteins and cell membranes that remain stable and functional at temperatures that would instantly cook most other life forms. On land, in the boiling runoff from geysers and hot springs in places like Yellowstone National Park, similar heat-loving microbes create vibrant, colorful mats. These extremophiles form the base of a unique food web, supporting strange and wonderful animals like giant tube worms, blind shrimp, and heat-tolerant snails. Studying them has led to the discovery of heat-stable enzymes now used in laboratories worldwide, and has fundamentally expanded our understanding of the conditions that can support life, both on this planet and potentially on others. In places of boiling water and perpetual darkness, they are a quiet, profound testament to life's incredible tenacity and its ability to flourish. At the very edges of the possible, the deepest known point in the Earth's oceans is a place of almost alien extremity. The Challenger Deep, located in the Mariana Trench in the western Pacific, plunges to a depth of nearly 11,000 meters. To put that in perspective, if Mount Everest were placed at the bottom of the Challenger Deep, its summit would still be over 2 kilometers beneath the ocean's surface. The pressure at this depth is an unimaginable 1,100 times greater than at sea level, enough to instantly crush all but the most robustly engineered submersibles. The darkness is absolute, and the temperature hovers just above freezing. And yet, even here, life exists. Strange, ghostly snailfish, resilient amphipods, and communities of microbes have adapted to survive in this crushing, lightless environment, feeding on the constant, gentle marine snow of organic detritus that drifts down from the sunlit world above. Only a handful of human-piloted missions have ever reached its depths, but robotic probes have mapped its otherworldly terrain of slopes, trenches, and soft sediments. It stands as a powerful reminder that some of Earth's most extreme and mysterious frontiers are not in outer space, but here in the vast, silent, and largely unexplored depths of our own planet's oceans. In the eternal darkness of the deep sea, where sunlight cannot penetrate, many creatures have taken the production of light into their own hands. Bioluminescence is the rule, not the exception. While many fish use their built-in light to lure prey or camouflage themselves from predators below, some also use it for complex communication. The flashlight fish has light-producing organs, called photophores, under its eyes that it can blink on and off by covering them with a dark lid of skin. Lanternfish often have species-specific patterns of photophores along their bodies, which may act like name tags, helping them recognize potential mates in the blackness. Some species of squid and jellyfish flash in rhythmic, coordinated pulses, creating patterns that resemble a kind of aquatic Morse code. These drift-in, silent light shows in the abyss are mesmerizing, a living ballet of stars in a water-bound firmament. In a world without sun, light becomes a versatile tool and a rich, nuanced language, written in flickers, glows, and sudden flashes, telling stories of attraction, warming, and survival that we are only just beginning to decipher. Plants may seem passive, rooted firmly in place, but many are far more perceptive and responsive than we once believed. When a caterpillar begins to munch on a leaf, some plants can actually taste the presence of specific compounds in the insect's saliva. This detection triggers a rapid defense response, often involving the production and release of bitter or toxic chemicals, designed to make the leaf unpalatable. In some cases, the plant under attack will also release volatile, organic compounds into the air, an aromatic distress signal. Neighboring plants of the same species can detect these airborne chemicals and will, in turn, preemptively activate their own defense systems even before they are attacked. This ability doesn't involve taste buds, but rather sophisticated chemical receptors at the cellular level. For the hungry insect, it is as if its meal suddenly and mysteriously turns sour and distasteful mid-bite. This process reveals that plants are active, aware participants in their own survival, capable of reading the signs of danger in their environment and responding in subtle, but highly effective ways. In a dry, cracked lake bed in California's Death Valley known as the Racetrack Playa, a geological mystery long captivated scientists and visitors alike. Large rocks, some weighing hundreds of pounds, seem to slide across the flat, hard-packed mud, leaving long, meandering trails behind them. For decades, no one had ever witnessed the movement, and theories ranged from the mundane to the paranormal. The mystery was finally solved in 2014 when researchers observed the process in action. They discovered that under rare, perfect winter conditions, a thin sheet of ice forms on the playa. During the day, as the sun warms the ice, it begins to break up into large, floating panels. On the surface of this wet, slick mud, these ice panels, pushed by light winds, can nudge the rocks along, causing them to slide slowly and gracefully across the bed. The movement is incredibly gradual, taking hours for a rock to travel just a few meters. The result is a landscape etched with these strange, beautiful trails, a silent record of the rock's solitary, wind-driven journeys across the desert floor. The avian world is home to some of the planet's most gifted vocalists and impressionists. The superb lyrebird of southeastern Australia is arguably the most accomplished mimic in the animal kingdom. It can reproduce with uncanny accuracy not only the songs of dozens of other bird species, but also a vast repertoire of environmental sounds, the whine of a chainsaw, the click of a camera shutter, the screech of a car alarm, and even fragments of human speech. Northern mockingbirds in the Americas are also famous for their vocal prowess, weaving the calls of other birds, the chirps of crickets, and the croaks of frogs into their long, complex, and ever-changing songs. These abilities serve multiple purposes: to attract mates, to defend territories with a show of vocal strength, and sometimes, it seems, simply for the pleasure of it. Young birds learn their songs by listening closely to the sounds of their environment, and the most successful mimics can pass these learned sounds down through generations. To be walking through a quiet forest and suddenly hear a bird perfectly imitate the sound of a barking dog or a crying baby is both startling and delightfully surreal. A charming reminder that nature's voices are not always what they seem. The human visual spectrum is a narrow window into the full richness of light. While we see only from red to violet, many insects can perceive ultraviolet UV light, revealing a hidden world of patterns and contrasts. Flowers often have bold, distinct UV markings, sometimes called nectar guides, that are completely invisible to us, but stand out like runway lights to a bee or butterfly, directing them straight to the pollen and nectar. This UV vision also helps insects identify each other, avoid predators that might also reflect UV light, and navigate using the polarization of UV light in the sky. For them, the world is painted with an extra layer of information and color that we cannot comprehend. The same meadow we see as a uniform green is, to a bee, a vibrant tapestry of glowing targets and signals, a landscape alive with a secret language of light written in hues we have no name for. The Sahara, today a vast ocean of sand, was once a dramatically different place. Just several thousand years ago, during the African humid period, the Sahara was a green and vibrant savanna, dotted with lakes, crossed by rivers, and teeming with life. Rock art from the region depicts scenes of swimming hippos, herds of elephants, and giraffes, animals that could not survive in the current arid conditions. Fossil evidence and sediment cores from ancient lake beds confirm that this green Sahara was a reality. This dramatic transformation was driven by cyclical changes in Earth's orbit and tilt, which shifted the monsoon rains farther north, watering the land for millennia. As these orbital cycles continued, the monsoons retreated, and the land slowly dried out, transforming into the desert we know today. It is a powerful example of how Earth's climate is not static but can undergo profound shifts, reshaping entire continents, ecosystems, and the course of human history. Beneath the rolling dunes, the evidence of its lush, green past lies buried, waiting to tell its story. While the storms on our own planet are measured in days, the atmosphere of Jupiter operates on a different scale entirely. The Great Red Spot is a colossal, anticyclonic storm that has been raging in Jupiter's southern hemisphere for at least 400 years, and possibly much longer. This massive storm is larger than the entire Earth, with ferocious winds that scream at speeds exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. Unlike terrestrial storms, which are weakened by friction with land, Jupiter's storm is sustained by the planet's turbulent, gas-based atmosphere and lack of a solid surface. From our telescopes and spacecraft, it appears as a swirling, brick-red oval, an enduring and immense scar in the bands of clouds that strike the gas giant. Studying this persistent tempest helps scientists understand not only the weather on Jupiter, but also the dynamics of fluid motion and atmospheric systems that might exist on planets throughout our galaxy and beyond. The glass frogs of Central and South America possess one of the most bizarre and beautiful adaptations in the amphibian world: transparent skin on their undersides. When viewed from below, their beating heart, digestive system, and even their bones are clearly visible through their belly. When resting on a leaf, they can actively shift red blood cells away from their skin and into their core, making themselves even more transparent and achieving a near-perfect camouflage against the green foliage. This ability is not just for hiding from predators. It is also thought to help with temperature regulation and protection from UV radiation. To see a glass frog up close is an almost surreal experience. It feels less like looking at a solid animal and more like peering into a living, breathing anatomical diagram, its life processes on full display beneath a delicate, jade green skin. In the late winter and early spring, as the deep freeze of winter begins to loosen its grip, a sweet miracle occurs in the forests of North America. Sugar maple and other related trees undergo a massive movement of sap. A single, mature sugar maple tree can produce hundreds of liters of sap in a single season. This sap flow is driven by the freeze-thaw cycle when nights are still freezing, but days are above zero. Pressure changes within the tree force the sap, which is mostly water with a small percentage of sugar, upward through the xylem vessels. For centuries, people have tapped into this flow by drilling small holes into the trunks and collecting the clear, slightly sweet liquid. It is a process that requires patience, as it takes roughly 40 liters of sap to be boiled down to produce a single liter of rich, amber maple syrup. But this sap is more than just a source of sweetness for humans. It is the lifeblood of the tree, transporting water and dissolved nutrients from the roots to the buds, fueling the explosive new growth of spring. To watch the clear drops fall steadily from a tap into a bucket in a sun-dappled, snowy forest is to witness the very pulse of the tree, a slow, sweet heartbeat marking the turn of the seasons. Deep in the Peruvian Amazon flows a river that seems to defy logic, known as Xanetimpishka, which translates to boiled with the heat of the sun. This river's water can reach temperatures near the boiling point, hot enough to quickly cause severe, third-degree burns and kill small animals that fall into it. Unlike most hot springs, which are associated with active volcanoes, this river's heat is geothermal in origin, coming from water that has circulated deep into the Earth's crust, been heated by the planet's internal energy, and then forced back to the surface through faults. The boiling river is over 6 kilometers long, winding mysteriously through dense, untouched rainforest, its banks constantly shrouded in a thick, warm, enveloping mist. For the local indigenous community, it is a sacred site, a place of immense spiritual power. For scientists, it is a geological enigma and a unique ecosystem. To walk its steamy banks is to experience a place of profound contradiction. To hear the familiar sounds of the jungle while seeing leaves curl from the heat, and the water itself bubble and churn with a power that feels both ancient and alive. In the perpetual, absolute darkness of deep caves and the absol plains of the ocean, a unique community of animals has evolved to live their entire lives without a single photon of light. In these environments, eyes are not only useless, they are a metabolic liability. Consequently, many of these species have lost their eyes entirely through evolution. The Mexican tetra, a species of cavefish, is a classic example. It is born with eyes that quickly degenerate, leaving it blind as an adult. Instead, it has developed an exquisite sensitivity to changes in water pressure and movement through its lateral line system, allowing it to see its world through touch and vibration. Deep-sea creatures like the tripod fish use elongated, sensitive fin rays to feel their way along the murky seafloor. In these pitch-black realms, vision has been abandoned, and energy has been redirected to heighten other senses to a degree we can hardly imagine. Life in total darkness may seem like a profound limitation to us, but for these animals, it is simply the normal condition for a complete, thriving, and perfectly adapted existence. A world entire unto itself, forever beyond the reach of the sun. The beautiful, spiraling forms of many seashells are not random, they are the result of precise, mathematical growth patterns. Many mollusks, like the chambered nautilus, build their shells following a logarithmic spiral. As the animal grows, it adds new, larger chambers to its shell while maintaining the same overall proportions, creating a structure that is both incredibly strong and efficient, providing maximum internal volume for minimum structural material. This same spiral, known as the golden ratio or Fibonacci spiral, appears repeatedly throughout nature in the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, the form of a hurricane as seen from space, and even in the vast, rotating arms of spiral galaxies. When you hold a nautilus shell and trace the curve of its chambers inward, you are following a mathematical blueprint that the universe seems to favor, a pattern that connects the very small to the cosmically large, hinting at a deep, underlying order in the cosmos. High in the Earth's atmosphere, at the very edge of space, there exists a cloud so delicate and ethereal that it can only be seen under very specific conditions. Noctilucent, or night shining, clouds form in the mesosphere, over 80 kilometers above the ground. They are composed of tiny ice crystals that form on minute particles of meteoric dust. They are illuminated not by direct sunlight, but by the sun's rays from below the horizon, lighting them up against the darkening twilight sky long after the sun has set. They appear as wispy, silvery blue veils, rippling and shimmering with an otherworldly glow, most commonly seen at high latitudes during the summer months. They are thought to be becoming more frequent, possibly due to changes in atmospheric composition linked to climate change. To see them is to witness one of the most delicate and elusive atmospheric phenomena, a reminder that the sky itself holds mysteries that glow with a cold, celestial fire. For some spiders, the world is not a place to be walked, but to be sailed. Using a technique known as ballooning, many species of spiders, especially tiny spiderlings, will climb to a high point, tilt their abdomens to the sky, and release one or several strands of silk. These silk threads catch the wind, acting like a parachute or a sail, and can lift the spider high into the air, carrying it for distances ranging from a few meters to hundreds of kilometers. Spiders have been collected by airplanes high in the atmosphere, and have been some of the first colonizers to arrive on newly formed volcanic islands. They can survive these long journeys by going dormant and catching airborne prey. To watch a tiny spider release its silk and be lifted off into the blue, borne aloft by nothing but a thread and the wind, is to see the beginning of an epic, improbable voyage, a testament to life's irrepressible urge to disperse and explore. In environments where food is scarce or unpredictable, the ability to fast becomes a superpower. The Ohm, a blind, cave-dwelling salamander found in the waters of caves in southern Europe, can survive without food for up to a decade. It achieves this by drastically reducing its metabolic rate and becoming almost completely inactive, reabsorbing its own tissues in a carefully managed way. Crocodiles and large constrictor snakes can survive for over a year on a single large meal, living off stored fat. Even the microscopic tardigrade can enter a state called cryptobiosis, in which it dehydrates itself, retracts its legs, and halts its metabolism entirely, allowing it to survive for decades without food or water. These are not just feats of endurance, they are sophisticated survival strategies that allow animals to persist in habitats where feasts are rare and famines are long, proving that in the natural world, patience can be a far more valuable asset than speed or strength. Beneath the waves off many of the world's coastlines lie some of the most productive and breathtaking ecosystems on the planet: kelp forests. Giant kelp, a type of brown algae, is one of the fastest growing organisms on Earth, capable of growing over half a meter in a single day under ideal conditions. It can form towering, underwater structures over 30 meters tall, creating a dense, swaying canopy that provides food and shelter for an incredible diversity of life, including fish, sea otters, seals, and innumerable invertebrates. These submarine forests are vital marine nurseries and play a key role in coastal protection by absorbing wave energy. When sunlight filters down through the canopy, it gives the water a magical, emerald glow, and the gentle, Rhythmic movement of the long fronds in the current can have a hypnotic effect on divers. Like their terrestrial counterparts, they are complex, layered ecosystems, but here, the trees are anchored to the rocky seafloor by a holdfast, and they stretch toward the sun, creating a hidden forest in a world of blue. The concept of sleeping in a bed is entirely foreign to some birds, for whom the sky is both their highway and their home. Species like frigate birds and albatrosses, which spend weeks or months continuously over the open ocean, have mastered the art of sleeping in flight. Research has shown that they engage in unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, just like dolphins. They can shut down one hemisphere of their brain at a time, allowing the other to remain alert enough to maintain flight, navigate, and watch for danger. They often sleep while effortlessly soaring on rising air currents, requiring minimal wing movement. Some birds may even sleep in brief, few-second micronaps throughout the day and night, accumulating their rest without ever needing to land. It is an adaptation that turns the boundless sky into a limitless domain, allowing them to travel thousands of kilometers without pause. There lives a continuous journey where the horizon is their only constant companion. In a handful of deserts around the world, the landscape itself can break into song. Under the right conditions, typically when dry, well-sorted sand grains slide down the steep face of a dune. They can produce a low, resonant, booming or humming sound that can be felt as much as heard. This singing sand or booming dune phenomenon can produce a single, sustained note that lasts for several minutes and can carry for over a kilometer. The sound is created by the synchronization of the sand grains as they slide, creating a shear layer that vibrates like the surface of a loudspeaker. The explorer Marco Polo attributed the sounds he heard in the Gobi Desert to evil spirits. It remains one of the most haunting and beautiful natural soundscapes, a deep, rumbling melody played by the landscape itself, as if the desert is breathing a low, resonant song into the vast, empty air. Not all deserts are the color of sand. Some are a brilliant, startling white. In southern New Mexico, White Sands National Park protects a vast gypsum dune field, the largest of its kind on Earth. The dunes, composed of pure, white gypsum crystals, stretch like a snowy landscape as far as the eye can see. Gypsum is a soft mineral that is usually dissolved and carried away by water, but here, in a close basin with no outlet to the sea, it accumulated after ancient lakes evaporated. Over thousands of years, the wind has sculpted the gypsum into rolling, brilliant white dunes that sparkle under the sun and glow with a soft, pale blue light under the moon. Walking barefoot on these dunes feels strangely like walking on cool, coarse snow, even as the desert sun warms the air. The whiteness is so pure and reflective that the dune field is clearly visible from space, a gleaming, alabaster desert unlike any other place on the planet. The concept of biological immortality is no longer just a fantasy. It exists in a small, unassuming jellyfish. Torritopsis dorni, often called the immortal jellyfish, has a unique and remarkable ability. When it faces physical assault, starvation, or simply old age, it can reverse its life cycle. Its cells undergo a process called transdifferentiation, where they transform into completely different types of cells. The medusa, the adult jellyfish form, will resorb its tentacles and settle onto a surface, reverting into a polyp, the juvenile, sedentary stage of its life cycle. This polyp then begins to grow and bud off new, genetically identical medusa, effectively starting its life over again. While it can still be eaten or killed by disease, it appears to have no set lifespan. Found in oceans around the world, these tiny, transparent jellyfish are a biological marvel, challenging our most fundamental understanding of aging and death. They are a stunning reminder that in nature, even the most seemingly fixed rules of life can sometimes be rewritten. Agriculture is not a human invention. it has been practiced by insects for millions of years. Leafcutter ants of Central and South America are master farmers. They do not eat the leaves they so meticulously cut and carry back to their enormous underground nests. Instead, they use the leaf fragments to cultivate a specialized fungus in carefully tended gardens. The ants weed, prune, and fertilize this fungus, which is the sole food source for their larvae. This symbiotic relationship is so ancient and specialized that neither the ant nor the fungus can survive without the other. A single colony can contain millions of individuals, with a complex division of labor, from the large soldiers that defend the nest to the tiny gardeners that tend the fungal plots. It is a fully functional, highly efficient agricultural society operating beneath the forest floor, a testament to the power of coevolution that predates human farming by tens of millions of years. In the competition for pollinators, some plants have adopted a strategy of deception that appeals to the basest of instincts. The Titan arum, or corpse flower, is the undisputed master of this macabre art. It produces the largest unbranched inflorescence in the world, often rising over 3 meters tall. When it blooms, which may be only once every 7 to 10 years, it does not release a sweet perfume. Instead, it emits a powerful stench that is a near-perfect imitation of rotting flesh. This foul odor, combined with the deep red, meat-like color of the inner spathe, attracts its target pollinators, carrion beetles and flesh flies, which are tricked into thinking they have found a prime site for laying their eggs. As they crawl around inside the massive flower, they inadvertently pick up or deposit pollen. The bloom is brief, lasting only 24 to 48 hours, during which the plant even generates heat to help volatilize the smell and spread it farther. For those who can withstand the odor, it is an unforgettable spectacle, a massive, alien-looking bloom that uses a clever, stinky lie to ensure its own survival. In fire-prone ecosystems, some trees have not just learned to survive fire, they have evolved to depend on it. The giant sequoias of California have incredibly thick, fibrous bark up to 2 feet thick that acts as a superb insulator against the heat of passing flames. Some species of pine, like the lodgepole pine, have serotinous cones that are sealed shut with a resin that only melts and releases the seeds in the intense heat of a fire. Eucalyptus trees in Australia are famous for containing flammable oils in their leaves that encourage hot, fast-moving fires, but they also have protected buds deep under their bark that allow them to resprout vigorously after a blaze has passed. For these species, fire is not an end, but a necessary renewal. It clears out competing vegetation, recycles nutrients locked in dead wood, and creates the open, sunlit conditions their seedlings need to thrive. These adaptations show that in nature, destruction and creation are often two sides of the same coin, and that catastrophe can be the catalyst for new life. The ability to perceive the Earth's magnetic field, known as magnetoreception, is a sense that seems like science fiction to us, but for many animals, it is as real as sight or sound. Migratory birds are thought to use special light-sensitive proteins in their eyes, called cryptochromes, to see magnetic fields as visual patterns. Sea turtles may have magnetic particles in their brains that act like a compass needle. Even domestic dogs have been observed to prefer aligning themselves on a north-south axis when defecating, suggesting a residual magnetic sense. For these creatures, the planet's magnetic field is like an invisible landscape, a map painted with lines of force that guides them across vast, featureless oceans and continents, allowing them to perform navigational feats that have mystified humans for centuries. The purity of water can reach levels that are almost beyond belief. Blue Lake Rotomerwinua in New Zealand's Nelson Lakes National Park is often cited as the clearest natural fresh water in the world. Underwater visibility can extend to an astonishing 80 meters, The water is filtered through landslide debris that acts as a natural sieve, removing nearly all suspended particles and microorganisms. Looking into its depths is like looking through air. Schools of trout seem to hang motionless, and every detail of the rocky bottom is visible with crystal clarity. Such exceptionally clear lakes are incredibly rare and fragile ecosystems, easily clouded by sediment from erosion or pollution. They are windows into an underwater world of stunning transparency. The oceans carry sounds with incredible efficiency, and humpback whales are the master composers of this liquid medium. Their songs are among the most complex in the animal kingdom, long, intricate sequences of moans, cries, and chirps that can continue, uninterrupted, for hours. These songs can travel for hundreds, if not thousands, of kilometers through the deep sound channel of the ocean. Only male humpbacks sing, primarily during the breeding season, and all the males in a population will sing roughly the same, constantly evolving song. The function of these songs is still debated, but they are likely used to attract mates and assert dominance. To hear a recording of a whale song, with its deep, resonant, and strangely melancholy tones echoing through the deep, is to feel a connection to a consciousness that is entirely alien, yet deeply intelligent. A voice from the heart of the sea that speaks of its vastness and mystery. Lightning typically flashes white or yellow, but under the extraordinary conditions of a volcanic eruption, it can take on an eerie, beautiful blue hue. During powerful eruptions, ash, rock fragments, and ice crystals colliding within the rising plume can generate immense static electricity, leading to intense volcanic lightning storms. The blue color is thought to come from the ionization of sulfur-rich gases in the plume. These electrical storms, set against the backdrop of a dark, ash-choked sky, are one of nature's most dramatic and terrifying spectacles. The blue bolts, crackling through the roiling clouds of ash, look like something from another world, as if the volcano is not just spewing rock and gas, but is summoning the very lightning from the sky itself. The vacuum, radiation, and temperature extremes of space are lethal to almost all known life. Yet, humble mosses have shown an astonishing ability to withstand them. In experiments conducted outside the International Space Station, samples of moss were exposed to the full fury of open space for extended periods. Upon being brought back inside and rehydrated, the mosses revived and began to grow again. Their resilience comes from a suite of adaptations for surviving extreme dehydration and repairing DNA damage. This makes them a key organism in the field of astrobiology, helping scientists understand the limits of life and the potential for it to survive interplanetary travel. The fact that a simple, ancient plant like moss can endure where almost nothing else can is a powerful testament to life's stubborn will to persist, even in the most hostile environments imaginable. On dark nights in forests around the world, a faint, ghostly glow can sometimes be seen emanating from rotting logs or the forest floor. This is bioluminescence, produced by certain species of fungi. The most famous are the foxfire fungi of North America and the Mycena chlorophyll mushrooms of Asia. The light is produced through a chemical reaction involving a compound called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase, similar to the process in fireflies. The biological reason for the glow is still debated. It may attract insects that help disperse the fungal spores, or it may deter hungry animals. For centuries, travelers' tales spoke of glowing wood and will-o'-the-wisp, not knowing they were describing the quiet, living light of fungi. To walk through a forest illuminated by these soft, greenish lights is a truly magical experience, as if the earth has been sprinkled with stardust, and the very ground is dreaming in light. While we are most familiar with terrestrial plants, there are many species that live their entire lives submerged in fresh water. Plants like eelgrass, take grass, and various pondweeds are fully aquatic, with adaptations for life underwater. They have thin, flexible leaves that resist tearing in currents, and specialized tissues parenchyma that channel oxygen from their leaves down to their roots. They photosynthesize underwater, absorbing dissolved carbon dioxide and nutrients directly from the water. In clear lakes and slow-moving rivers, these plants form dense, underwater meadows that are critical habitats for fish, amphibians, insects, and turtles. They also play a vital role in stabilizing sediments, preventing erosion, and improving water clarity by absorbing excess nutrients. Though hidden from our everyday view, these submerged gardens are as vibrant, complex, and essential as any forest on land. The annual migrations of monarch butterflies are legendary, but the globe skimmer dragonfly undertakes what is likely the longest insect migration of all. This tiny, unassuming dragonfly travels an incredible round trip of 14,000 to 18,000 kilometers, following the monsoon rains from India across the Indian Ocean to Africa and back again. This epic journey is completed over multiple generations. No single dragonfly makes the entire trip. Monarch butterflies, famously, fly thousands of kilometers from Canada and the northern United States to overwinter in a few small, specific mountain groves in Mexico. These incredible journeys are guided by a combination of innate instincts, the sun's position, and possibly even the Earth's magnetic field, that such small, fragile creatures can navigate across oceans and continents, through storms and predators, is one of the most inspiring testaments to endurance and navigational precision in the natural world. In landscapes underlain by soluble bedrock like limestone, the very ground can swallow rivers whole. Surface water can disappear down sinkholes, flowing through vast, dark cave systems before re-emerging miles away from where it vanished. The Puerto Princesa subterranean river in the Philippines is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where a navigable river flows for over 8 kilometers through a spectacular cave, before emptying into the South China Sea. Explorers of these systems can paddle through colossal chambers adorned with stalactites and stalagmites. These hidden rivers are powerful geological agents, slowly dissolving the rock to create caves and sinkholes, and they support unique ecosystems of blind, colorless creatures adapted to a life of perpetual darkness. They are a reminder that there is a whole world of flowing water and dramatic landscapes hidden just beneath our feet. What appears to be a forest of individual trees can, in fact, be a single, massive organism. Quaking aspen groves in North America often grow in this way. New stems, called ramids, sprout from a vast, interconnected root system. Above ground, they look like separate trees, but underground, they are all connected, sharing water, nutrients, and chemical signals. The most famous example is Pondo, a grove in Utah estimated to weigh over 6,000 tons and spread over 100 acres. It is considered one of the largest and oldest living organisms on Earth, with an estimated age of tens of thousands of years. This clonal growth allows the forest to recover rapidly from fires or other disturbances, as new shoots can spring up from the undamaged root system. It is a forest that is, in essence, one immortal, wandering entity. To maximize their chances of pollination, some flowers change color as they age, sending clear signals to their insect partners. Lantana flowers, for example, often open yellow and then change to orange and finally red. Pollinators quickly learn that the yellow flowers are newly opened and full of nectar, while the red ones are older and have already been pollinated. In some alpine flowers, a successful pollination event will trigger a color change in the petals, effectively telling other pollinators, "Move along, nothing to see here." This creates a quiet, efficient, and visual dialogue between the plant and the animal world, ensuring that the pollinators' efforts are focused where they are most needed, and the plant's precious pollen is not wasted. Mountains are typically made of granite, metamorphic rock, or sedimentary layers. But in a few places, they are made of salt. In Iran, the Yashik Salt Dome is a massive mountain of salt that rises over 1,400 meters above the surrounding plain. These salt structures, called diapirs, form when thick layers of ancient sea salt, buried under later rock, become buoyant and slowly push their way up through the overlying strata, sometimes piercing the surface. In Bolivia, the edges of the vast Salar de Uyuni salt flat are fringed with islands that are the tops of buried salt mountains. These surreal landscapes, often streaked with mineral impurities that create bands of color, are a direct link to ancient, vanished oceans. A reminder that the ground beneath our feet has a long and fluid history. Plants may not have brains, but they can form a kind of cellular memory. Experiments have shown that plants that have experienced a previous drought can respond more quickly and efficiently to a subsequent one. This memory is stored in the form of epigenetic changes, chemical modifications to their DNA that alter how genes are expressed without changing the genetic code itself. A plant that has learned from a past drought might preemptively close the stomata pores on its leaves more quickly to conserve water or ramp up the production of protective proteins. This priming allows them to survive in unpredictable climates, turning a past hardship into a future advantage. It is a simple, yet sophisticated, form of resilience written into their very cells. The drive to reproduce is so powerful in some fish that they will literally throw themselves against gravity. Pacific salmon are the iconic example, fighting their way upstream, leaping up waterfalls and through raging rapids to return to the exact headwaters, where they were born to spawn and die. In Hawaii, a type of goby undertakes an equally impressive feat. These tiny fish use suction cups formed from fused pelvic fins to inch their way up sheer, wet rock faces beside towering waterfalls, reaching the isolated stream pools above. These migrations are exhausting and perilous, but they are essential for accessing the safe, predator-free nursery grounds that have ensured the survival of their species for millennia. The sight of a fish hurling its body again and again at a wall of falling water is one of nature's most powerful images of determination and tenacity. Beneath the seemingly lifeless, dry surface of many of the world's great deserts lie vast, hidden oceans of fresh water. These underground reservoirs, called aquifers, can be immense. The Nubian sandstone aquifer system beneath the Sahara Desert is one of the largest in the world, containing water that fell as rain tens of thousands of years ago, during the last ice age. This ancient water sometimes reaches the surface at oases, creating pockets of lush, green life in the midst of the sand. In other places, it remains trapped deep below, accessible only by deep wells. These hidden lakes are lifelines for the people, animals, and plants of the desert, a secret reserve of life-giving water stored deep within the earth, waiting for its moment to nourish the world above. The limits of temperature tolerance for most life are narrow, but a few extremophiles thrive in conditions that swing from scalding to freezing. Tardigrades, or water bears, are the ultimate champions. They can survive temperatures well above boiling around 150 C, and also being frozen to near absolute zero to 7 C. They do this by entering a dormant state called cryptobiosis, in which they lose almost all their body water and their metabolism comes to a virtual standstill. Certain microbes, like Sulfolobus acidicaldarius, thrive in the near-boiling, acidic waters of hot springs, but can also endure much cooler temperatures. The Antarctic icefish lives permanently in water that is -2 C, thanks to natural antifreeze proteins in its blood. These organisms demonstrate that the boundaries of life are not rigid lines, but broad, overlapping zones, and that evolution can craft solutions for survival in the most wildly fluctuating and hostile conditions. For millennia, Humans used the stars to guide their journeys across the seas and deserts. We were not the first. Many migratory birds are celestial navigators. Indigo buntings, for example, learn the patterns of the stars around the North Star as nestlings. Even in a planetarium, where scientists can manipulate the star patterns, these birds will try to fly in the direction that the fake north indicates. Birds in the southern hemisphere used the constellation of the Southern Cross in a similar way. They combine this star map with their sense of the Earth's magnetic field and the position of the setting sun to create a redundant, multi-layered navigation system that is incredibly robust. This innate skill, written into their genes and refined over countless generations, is a beautiful example of how the cosmos itself is a map for those who know how to read it. The use of an external object to achieve a goal was once considered a uniquely human trait. We now know that many animals are skilled tool users. Chimpanzees famously fashion sticks to fish for termites in mounds. New Caledonian crows are master engineers, crafting hook tools from twigs to extract grubs from logs. Sea otters float on their backs and use rocks as hammers to smash open tough clam shells. Even the veined octopus has been observed collecting coconut shell halves and assembling them into a portable shelter. These behaviors often require foresight, learning, and sometimes even cultural transmission from one generation to the next. Tool use blurs the deep-seated line we once drew between human and animal intelligence, revealing that the capacity for innovation and problem-solving is a widespread and wonderfully varied trait in the animal kingdom. In some large cave systems, the cave itself seems to breathe. Changes in atmospheric pressure on the surface cause air to flow in or out of the cave's entrances to equalize the pressure. When the outside air pressure is higher than the pressure in the cave, air is forced in an inhalation. When the outside pressure drops, the cave exhales. In vast networks like Mammoth Cave in Kentucky or Wind Cave in South Dakota, this airflow can be strong and constant enough to create steady winds at the entrances, powerful enough to ruffle hair and extinguish candles. To stand at the mouth of such a cave and feel the cool, moist air flowing outward is a visceral experience, a tangible reminder that the underground world is not sealed off, but is connected to and breathing in rhythm with the atmosphere above. When under attack, some trees do not suffer in silence, they send out a silent alarm. When a leaf is chewed by an insect, many plants release volatile chemicals into the air. For neighboring trees of the same species, these chemicals act as a warning signal. Upon detecting them, the receiving trees will often begin preemptively producing defensive chemicals in their own leaves, tannins, or other compounds that make them less palatable to the approaching herbivores. Acacia trees in Africa are a well-studied example. When one is browsed by a giraffe, it quickly pumps tannins into its leaves and releases a gas that warns nearby acacias to do the same. The same scent can also attract the predators of the attacking insects. It is a silent, airborne communication network that turns a forest from a collection of individuals into a cooperative community, a society of trees that looks out for its own. The ocean has its own hidden system of rivers and waterfalls, far larger than any on land. These are density-driven currents, formed when cold, salty water sinks beneath warmer, less salty water. The largest underwater waterfall on Earth is located in the Denmark Strait, between Greenland and Iceland. Here, frigid, dense water from the Arctic flows down a steep drop in the seafloor, plunging a staggering 3,500 meters over 3 times the height of Angel Falls, the world's tallest terrestrial waterfall. These colossal flows are part of the global conveyor belt, a system of deep ocean currents that circulates water around the planet, transporting heat, oxygen, and nutrients, and playing a critical role in regulating Earth's climate. They are a powerful, unseen force, a reminder that the deep sea is a place of immense Dynamic energy and motion. In the deep sea and in lightless caves, where photons are absent, animals have evolved extraordinary ways of seeing. Many deep-sea fish have enormous eyes, packed with light-sensitive rods, to detect the faintest traces of bioluminescence. Other creatures, like pit vipers and some pythons, have special organs that can detect the infrared radiation body heat emitted by their warm-blooded prey. Cats, owls, and other nocturnal hunters have a reflective layer behind their retina called the tapetum lucidum, which amplifies available light, giving them superb night vision. These adaptations allow them to hunt, navigate, and communicate in environments where our own eyes would be utterly useless, proving that there are many ways to perceive a world, even in what we would call total darkness. We think of plants as passive recipients of sunlight and temperature, but a few can actually generate their own heat. The eastern skunk cabbage is a famous example. It can produce enough metabolic heat to melt the surrounding snow in late winter, often raising the temperature inside its flower spike by 20 to 30 C above the ambient air. This process, called thermogenesis, helps the flower emerge early and also volatilizes its pungent scent, attracting its primary pollinators, carrion flies. The sacred lotus flower also generates heat to regulate its temperature and attract pollinators. While rare, this ability shows that plants are not merely passive organisms, they can be active manipulators of their immediate microenvironment, using biochemistry to create warmth in a way we usually associate only with animals. The Earth is 4.54 billion years old, and the oldest intact material found on it are tiny, resilient crystals of the mineral zircon. Some of these, found in the Jack Hills of Western Australia, have been dated to 4.4 billion years. These tiny time capsules are all that remains of the earliest crust of our planet. They prove that continents began forming very soon after the Earth's formation, and analysis of their chemistry even suggests that liquid water oceans may have existed at this incredibly early date, making the Earth a potentially habitable planet almost from the very beginning. To hold a zircon is to hold a piece of the Earth's infancy, a fragment of the very first solid ground. The surface of a pond or stream can be a solid highway for some insects. Water striders, with their long, slender legs, distribute their weight over a large area, allowing them to skate on the surface film without breaking it. Their legs are also covered in microscopic, water-repelling hairs that trap air and prevent them from getting wet. They propel themselves with quick, sculling motions of their middle legs, gliding effortlessly to catch prey or escape danger. Watching a water strider dart across a still surface is like seeing a miniature ice skater, each movement creating perfect, expanding ripples that are the only sign of their passage on the liquid stage. Forests are not just passive recipients of weather, they are active creators of it. In the Amazon and other vast tropical forests, the daily transpiration of billions of trees releases immense quantities of water vapor into the atmosphere. This moisture rises and condenses into the very clouds that produce the afternoon rains that are essential for the forest's survival. This cycle is so powerful that it influences regional and even global weather patterns. Scientists have observed that deforestation in the Amazon can lead to a reduction in rainfall, not just locally, but thousands of kilometers away. From space, these self-made clouds look like a soft, white blanket over a sea of green. Each cloud is the breath of the forest, a visible manifestation of the living world actively shaping the sky above it. The mirror test is a classic, though debated, measure of self-awareness. An animal is marked with a dye spot in a place it can only see in a mirror. If it uses the mirror to investigate or try to remove the spot, it suggests it understands that the reflection is itself. A small group of animals have passed this test, including great apes, chimpanzees, orangutans, gorillas, dolphins, elephants, and magpies. This capacity hints at a level of consciousness and self-concept that we once thought was uniquely human. While the test has its limitations, it opens a fascinating window into the minds of other animals, suggesting that the question "who am I?" might be one that other intelligent species also ponder in their own way. The plant kingdom has its own predators. Carnivorous plants like the Venus flytrap, pitcher plants, sundews, and bladderworts have adapted to trap and digest small animals, primarily insects. They typically live in nutrient-poor environments like bogs, where nitrogen and phosphorus are scarce. The animal prey provides these essential nutrients. Each has its own unique trapping mechanism: snap traps, pitfall traps, sticky traps, or suction traps. Once caught, the prey is broken down by enzymes and its nutrients are absorbed by the plant. This is not an act of aggression, but one of survival, a brilliant evolutionary adaptation that allows these plants to thrive in habitats where other plants would struggle to find the nourishment they need. The Dead Sea, bordering Israel and Jordan, is so salty, about 34% salinity, nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean, that its water is extremely dense. This high density creates such powerful buoyancy that it is impossible for a person to sink. Swimmers float effortlessly on the surface without any need to tread water. This hypersalinity makes the lake inhospitable to almost all macroscopic life, hence its name. Though extremophile microbes can survive, the sensation of swimming, or more accurately, bobbing in the Dead Sea, is surreal. It feels like being cradled by a thick, buoyant cushion, a strange and memorable experience of effortless floating. The architectural prowess of birds can rival human craftsmanship in its complexity and beauty. Male bowerbirds of Australia and New Guinea construct elaborate structures called bowers, not as nests, but as stages to attract females. They decorate these arched avenues, or maypole-like structures, with meticulously arranged collections of shells, berries, flowers, bones, and even bits of plastic or glass, often sorted by color. Weaver birds, found in Africa and Asia, create intricately woven nests from grass and twigs, often featuring a long, downward-facing entrance tunnel to deter snakes and other predators. These structures are not innate, they are learned and refined behaviors, demonstrating remarkable foresight, aesthetic sense, and dexterity. They are testaments to the power of sexual selection and the drive to create, a drive that is clearly not limited to our own species. In a small part of Romania, there are stones that seem to be alive, called trovants. These concrete-like sandstone formations appear to grow, especially after heavy rain. They absorb mineral-rich water, and the pressure causes a reaction that leads to the deposition of new material around the core, making the rock expand. While the growth is very slow, just centimeters over many years, it gives the stones a bulbous, organic appearance, as if they are budding new stones. They challenge our perception of rocks as static and unchanging, presenting a landscape that feels strangely, slowly alive and restless. In a world of constant evolutionary change, some species have found a design so perfect for their niche that they have barely changed over hundreds of millions of years. These living fossils are reminders that evolution does not always mean progress, it means adaptation. And sometimes the best adaptation is to stay the same. The horseshoe crab has scuttled through ocean shallows for over 450 million years, its basic body plan unchanged. The coelacanth, a deep-sea fish, was thought to have gone extinct with the dinosaurs 66 million years ago, until a live one was caught off South Africa in 1938. Its form is almost identical to its fossil ancestors from 300 million years ago. These creatures are living windows into the deep past, showing us that the history of life is not a simple march of progress, but a complex story of stability and change. Despite our interconnected, satellite-mapped world, There remain places where no human has ever set foot. These are the planet's last true wildernesses, remote, inaccessible mountain peaks in ranges like the Himalayas or the Andes, deep, unexplored caves, vast tracts of the Amazon or Congo rainforests that are impenetrable by foot, or river and the most isolated stretches of the deep ocean floor. These places serve as irreplaceable baselines for nature, living libraries of biodiversity that have evolved without human influence. They remind us that for all our technology and exploration, the Earth still holds secrets and sanctuaries that belong entirely to themselves, places of pure, untrammeled wildness. Beneath the kilometers-thick ice sheet of Antarctica lies a hidden world of liquid water. Geothermal heat from the Earth's interior and the immense pressure of the overlying ice combine to keep water liquid in vast subglacial lakes and rivers. Lake Vostok, the largest of these, is buried under 4 kilometers of ice and is about the size of Lake Ontario. These dark, isolated ecosystems have been cut off from the rest of the world for millions of years, and scientists, drilling carefully into them, have discovered unique microbial life. These secret waterways show that even in one of the most extreme environments on the surface, life and the movement of water persist, revealing a dynamic world hidden beneath the frozen stillness. And so, our gentle, meandering journey through the hidden wonders of the natural world quietly draws to a close. We have wandered together from the silent, ancient cathedrals of the forest to the glowing, liquid constellations of the sea, from deserts that sing a low, rumbling hymn to caves that breathe with the rhythm of the earth itself. Along the way, we have discovered that life's creativity is truly without limit. Its strategies for survival as diverse as they are brilliant. Some of these stories were testaments to resilient tales of plants and animals bending the very rules of physics and chemistry to endure in places where existence itself seems an impossibility. Others were pure celebrations of beauty, the sudden, breathtaking explosion of color in a barren desert, the silent, geometric perfection of a crystal grown over millennia. And many were invitations to mystery, presenting us with phenomena we can explain only in part, leaving ample room for wonder to take root and grow in the quiet spaces of our minds. As you rest now, you might carry with you the image of a bioluminescent bay, its dark water sparkling with 1,000 tiny, living stars with every movement. You might picture the slow, patient journey of a forest canopy, breathing its own clouds into the sky, or drift in your imagination through a sun-dappled kelp forest, or stand in silent awe beneath the gnarled branches of a tree that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. The world is vast, and it is full of such marvels in places you may never personally visit. Yet, they exist all the same, thriving, shifting, and guarding their secrets, waiting for a curious mind to pause and take notice. And the most wonderful truth is, you do not always have to travel far to find them. Sometimes, the most profound sense of wonder is waiting right outside your door, hidden in the gentle rustle of leaves, the intricate pattern of a spider's web beaded with morning dew, or the clean, cool scent of rain on dry earth. Thank you for allowing me to be your guide, and to share these quiet moments of discovery with you tonight. If you find yourself still awake and your curiosity alight, you are welcome to continue the journey with the next video. But if your eyes are growing heavy and your thoughts are beginning to drift like leaves on a pond, you can let them go without a worry. The natural world will still be here when you wake, patient, timeless, and endlessly, generously full of stories waiting to be told. Good night.